Well, it's just like, well, I'll give you an actor analogy that works completely for me as a writer. All right, if I'm playing on, I don't know, whatever, Sugar Babies or something, you know, something really crazy. All right, Sugar Babies, okay, in a theater production. All right, and I'm driving on my way to the theater, and I hit a dog on the way to the theater that night. Okay, now that doesn't make you commit suicide after killing a dog, but it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
All right, okay, and no, I'm affected by that. Now the thing is, when I go out on stage, I have to bring that experience on with me, or what am I doing up there? All right, that is obviously going on with me at that time, and that needs to be on the stage. That
No, wait, it needs to be on the stage because it is what's happening inside of you?
Yeah, exactly. True.
Right.
That's it. It's because it's what's happening inside of me. Now, if I'm doing Sugar Babies or Death of a Salesman or You Can't Take It With You, that doesn't mean the play all of a sudden becomes about a dead dog.
Yeah.
All right. But it definitely doesn't, I'm not there unless I bring that on with me and make that work inside of the material. If I'm not, then you could just send a robot out there. That's just good acting. That's what you have to do. You can't deny anything. All right. Well, the same thing with me as a writer. If I was writing The Guns of the Navarone, all right, and then right at the beginning of writing it or in the middle of writing it, I break up with my girlfriend who I'm like madly in love with, and then my heart is shattered. All right. That's got to work into it. Now, the story is still about a bunch of commandos going to blow up a couple of cannons, all right? But that pain that I'm feeling has got to find its way into this story, or else what am I doing?
And translating to writing, meaning that whatever you're experiencing as a writer, you got to put into those characters, and you know how to do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing I think that makes. I mean, that's why when people say, "Well, you're just making movies about other movies," I go, "Well, that's bull." I mean, to me, all my movies are. I mean, I'm working in a genre, no doubt about it. All right, and I respect the genre, no doubt about it.
And what's the genre in your own definition?
Well, in the ones I'm doing crime films.
Okay.
All right, and then like in the case of Reservoir Dogs, it's a subgenre crime film. It's a heist picture.
Right.
A bunch of guys get together and pull a robbery.
Right.
You've seen
Right.
a bunch of kind of movies like that before. And the thing is, though, but I respect the genre, and I'm jumping off from it. But to me, all the movies are very personal. All right, when I look at them, and I don't mean like I'm some crook. All right, but the thing about it, though, is like, this group of friends will look at it and be like, "Oh, Quinn, I can't believe you talked about that." And this old girlfriend.
Because they identify
geez,
with the
Quentin,
experience.
Yeah. It's like you should be semi-embarrassed about certain people seeing your movie. I think when you're finished, if you're working on a personal level.
No, or else the work is not authentic.
Well, I mean, I don't want to make that blanket a statement, but I guess for me, yeah.
You're not extending yourself unless you're bringing all of that.
You've got to. I mean, basically. I mean,
why do you?
A writer. You should have this little voice inside of you saying, "Tell the truth."
Yeah.
Tell the truth. Tell the truth.
Yeah.
All right. Reveal a few secrets.
And the truth
here.
is your life experience.
Exactly. That's the truth as I know it.
Right. Why do you work in the crime genre?
Well, it's a genre I've always really got a kick at.
Yeah.
I
From the
always
30s and the 40s and Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett and all that.
And stuff in the 70s and just all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always, it's a
Elmore
genre.
Leonard or...
Oh, I love Elmore Leonard.
Yeah.
In fact, to me, True Romance is basically like an Elmore Leonard movie that he didn't write, And like, I actually owe a big debt to like kind of figuring out my style from Elmore Leonard, because he was the first writer I'd ever read, but also Charles Willeford did it as well. But he was one of the first writers I'd ever read that just let mundane conversations actually inform the characters, and then all of a sudden, you're into whatever story you're telling. But the thing is, though, it's just a genre I've always really liked and always had a lot of appreciation for and liked going to, and I thought I would do a good job with it.
But you said an interesting thing once, maybe talking about Pulp Fiction, but maybe about Reservoir Dogs and others, is that you said that somehow, or somebody said about you, I can't remember where I read this, but basically that there was, in a sense, a combination of European art film and black exploitation film coming together.
Yeah, not just black exploitation films, but just American exploitation films in general. All right. I mean, in the case of like Pulp Fiction, I think like the two biggest descendants that the film has are like
where did Pulp Fiction come from?
Yeah, well, it's like to me, when I look at it and I watch it, to me I kind of see like those like when like the French New Wave would do their version of crime films, when Jean-Luc Godard and Truffaut, and then like Jean-Pierre Melville before them would do their kind of like crazy French version of American movies. And then I also see like a kind of like a modern day spaghetti western playing there, as well as a blaxploitation movie from the 70s, all kind of like mixed up together.
I mean, we talk about this lightly, but you remind me, of someone whose passion was to be a filmmaker, and you have studied the lives of all the filmmakers,
Yeah.
you know their lives as well as anyone, as their biographer does.
That's not too far from wrong, I would guess.
Looking for what?
Well, one,
Just because you love the fact that
starting off as
they
just,
do what you do, and therefore
yeah. I mean, starting off just as interest. I mean,
Right.
I mean, literally,
Yeah.
if a guy is a baseball fanatic and everything,
Exactly, right.
if his hero is Willie Mays, he's going to follow
he wants to
him.
know everything he is about baseball and about Willie Mays. Right.
Exactly.
He turns first to the sports page.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, and part of that is all just like the function of having heroes.
Yeah.
And so like for instance, when I was in my I'm still now he's one of my favorite filmmakers, but like in particularly when I was in my 20s, I loved Brian De Palma. All right, and I would just like obsess about like his stuff the way like any like big fan would obsess about either a movie star or a baseball star or whatever. Is like when his movies would come out, I'd be counting down the days to like the first show of his movie, and I would collect all the reviews and all the interviews, and I put them in like these De Palma scrapbooks and stuff that I had set up, and then I would go see his film, like a movie of his, Scarface or something, would open, and I would go see the first show first day. All right, no one could go with me. I didn't want anyone else to. It was too like it was like a religious experience. No one wanted anyone to. I don't care what anyone thought, all right? I just sit there and watch the movie, all right? And that's sort of like just kind of taking it in, seeing all what the story was and everything. Then I would go see the midnight show that night, and then I'd kind of like somebody to see it with me, all right? And then I could really watch, okay, I've got the story, I got the film, now let's see how he did it, all right? And
then you could talk about it with that person.
yeah, then I could talk about it with that person. I also kind of see it through their eyes and stuff, But now the thing is, though, also what I would have is, and that was those dealing with heroes, whether it be Brian De Palma or Howard Hawks or Douglas Sirk or Scorsese or whoever. But also just as like a film, more or less like historian or something, even though I wasn't hired by anybody to be a historian of my own mind. All right. I would be very interested in following directors' careers and like studying their careers and everything, and constantly,
In terms of how they made it, or the evolution of a career in terms of how they went from...
Evolution of a career. Yeah. It's like, there's many examples when you look at like a filmmaker who's done, 15 films or something like that. Forget about the old guys. Like, in the last 20 years. All right. Done 10 or 15 films, and like, wow, this work here is really exciting, and then at some point, it stopped being exciting. Yeah. Either it was like the same old thing, or else they became hacks, or they just came, Now, where did that happen? Yeah. Where did that start?
When did they stop caring? To lose it? Exactly.
And to me, that's very interesting.
And the point you said is, when did they stop caring?
Yes, exactly. I do believe that. All right. Now, I'm not a critic, so I'm not going to use an example on the air because that could hurt that person's feelings. If I was like a critic, I would write an article about it, and it wouldn't be just conversation. But it's like, but there's quite a few directors where like you can't believe the work that they did in the 70s is the work that they're doing now. You can't believe it's the same man.
And what do you think happened?
Well, oddly enough, I actually kind of see what happens. All right, it usually has to do with like one film. One film is either like, you see them growing or building or whatever, and this is actually, there's two ways that this can go. And one way is they do one film, and usually it's a film that they're very personal about, that they care a lot about, and one, not only does it not do well, it's not recognized. Okay, now maybe they did a bad job with it, or maybe they did a terrific job with it, all right? But it's, but they get nothing for it. They get slapped in the face for it, and you can tell that the film had a real personal feeling to them.
Yeah. They really had put it out on the table.
They really put it out on the table, all right? And at least as far as they were concerned, all right? And they got neither the press, no, they got, and it failed horribly. Yeah. And then from that point on, and at least 5 directors that I can think of off the top of my head, you can just see all of a sudden they started doing star vehicles. Yeah. All of a sudden they just started doing program films. And then 6, 7 years down the line, it's like whatever originality or whatever special personality that they have completely doesn't exist
anymore. Let me
anymore.
just test this with you. Coppola and Apocalypse Now. Mm-hmm.